But right now, and geez, it's hard in this space to find, if you like, credible commentators because it is such a chaotic, it seems to me, and fast-moving world, the world of apps and social media and everything else. So really, I just thought let's cast around and find someone who would have an opinion on this because while it's not a kind of a mainstream news media story, it does affect people. And as I said to you, if you are, my understanding is about 10 to 12% of the New Zealand population are on an app called Twitter. Now, if you're not on Twitter, you won't know what Twitter is. I'm not on, or I don't use Instagram and various others. Twitter next to Facebook, and certainly in terms of arguments and being mean to people online, Twitter leads the world. Twitter is an app that was for trolling people, being mean to people, saying nasty things about people, let's be honest. But very, very useful in terms of creating social networks. It was bought by Elon Musk, who just in the last couple of weeks has changed the name from Twitter and its logo of a blue bird to X. Because he says he likes X. He's got SpaceX. I don't know why he didn't call it a Tesla, his cars. But he's changed the name and the logo. You don't tweet anymore. It was so ubiquitous, Twitter. You tweeted. It's like doing a search on your computer. It was Googling. Twitter ruled the world in this social media space market, I thought. But now it's X. And you X or you post on X. And without me asking, the Twitter logo is off my phone. It is now the X logo, which is just an X, really, pretty much. And I don't know. I'm not using it as much. So is this a brilliant idea by Elon Musk or madness? To find out, we are joined now by businessman, property commentator, and owner of the website domain name x.org.nz, Ashley Church. Ashley, how are you, mate?
Hey, Sean, I'm good. Good commentary, good opening.
It is. It's kind of weird. For people who don't know Twitter, you're talking about an alternate universe, right? But if you're in the Twitter, I'm presuming you are. You're on Twitter.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. I maintain a Twitter account. I have done for a long time, but I've actually never been a big user for exactly the reasons that you just articulated. That it's a pretty nasty space, or it certainly has been prior to Elon
It can
Musk
be very funny, though.
Yeah, well, yes, it can. Yes, it can, and there's some clever comedy in there, but it's that sort of sarcastic, dark humour, and it's more about...
I must admit, I use it often for light relief just when I'm bored. And it's like fishing. I'll throw out a provocative tweet and off they go.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of social media, I mean, my sort of director of choice have always been primarily LinkedIn, and which started in 2008 as a career platform, and it's become a sort of Facebook for adults and Facebook itself. So Twitter's been very much a distant third. But I have to say, given that Musk bought it some months ago, and given the changes that he's been attempting to make to it, I've taken much more of an interest in it to see what's likely to happen. And you'll remember that there was, not long after he bought it, in fact, before he bought it, he gave an undertaking that he was going to release something called the Twitter Papers, which was essentially an expose of
how woke and cancely they were.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And he did that. He stuck to his word. He started putting some papers
He fired a lot of people too.
He did.
Then they came in and they wanted to set up this thing called Mastodon, which was going to be the great thing for the wokies. That didn't seem to take off. And then there was Threads, or Thread. And Thread lasted all of a week, which hasn't really happened, which was Zuckerberg and Microsoft.
Yeah.
So given all that, why then implode your own company by getting rid of one of the most recognisable brands in social media?
So I agree with you, and it's an interesting to see, particularly given how much he paid. He paid $44 billion for it, so it wasn't cheap. And if you look at the brand equity in Twitter and the ubiquity of that word, the fact that people talk about tweeting, I would have thought that he would have essentially tried to pivot it and move it into a space that was more mainstream, more neutral in respect of its political position. And he hasn't done that. He's basically completely changed it. So it's a brave move. Now, look, who am I? Who am I? Who are you? This is Elon Musk. Maybe he's smarter than all of us. Maybe he's a social media genius. Maybe this will work out and it'll be a brilliant move.
But I'm not wrong in scratching my head on this. And that's the thing. I thought, am I missing something here? Am I an idiot? You know?
No, I don't think you're an idiot, but it doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. I mean, tweeting was an easy thing to talk about. What do? Do you X? What's the plural of X?
And like people would say, did you read that tweet the other day? He's been caught on Twitter. I've been going back through the... He's erased it in some ways. Actually, I'm going to ask you, is he... And clearly we know that Elon Musk is Asperger's or autistic or something, right? There's something going on there.
Yeah.
So he thinks differently, which allows him in some areas of endeavour to achieve fantastic things. So there's this mystique around him that he can do no wrong, and he's a darling of kind of the right, I think it would be fair to say.
Yep. Ironically, given that he started out on the left.
Yeah. Is it possible he's got this wrong, though?
Oh, it's totally possible he's got it wrong, and it's possible that his vanity has overruled his common sense and his business sense in this regard. But as I say,
and he's made mistakes before, Ashley. I mean, he slept with Amber Heard.
Well, there you go. You have to question his judgment. Look, I don't know. I think if we over the next 12 months, either this thing's going to be this change of name is going to prove to be really clever, and we're all going to be talking about X in a year's time, and we'll be who was Twitter? We'll forget that ever existed, or it's going to start to fragment, and some of these other alternative platforms that so far haven't really been able to sort of have the impact on Twitter are going to start to get some traction, and it's going to start to break down. And it's the effect of that for him, of course, is it's going to fragment the value of his investment.
Yeah. Well, here's another, and I, for some reason, I've been slightly obsessing about this, using the time I'd normally have spent on Twitter. Is it possible that Elon Musk does want to destroy and fragment social media? He has talked in the past of the dangers of it, how people should put down their devices and re-engage in the real world. Is this perhaps a very, very expensive way of achieving that goal?
Well, I was just going to say, if that is his plan, it's a very expensive plan. It's, sort of a self-deprecating one because, as I say, $44 billion. It was a huge amount of money. Look, maybe that's the plan. I tend to think what's more likely is he's trying to move the role or the place of social media in society to a more neutral point. I don't know if you remember, about a year or 2 years ago, he produced quite a cute little cartoon, and it was a picture of what had happened to social media advocacy over the last sort of 10 or so years. And it was a picture of a guy who was on the centre left, and he was regarded as being sort of where the left was. And then the graphic, and I'm not describing this very well, but the graphic showed that over the period of the next 10 years, what had happened is that the alt-left had moved so far further over to the left that this guy was now on the right.
Right,
and that was Musk describing himself. He was basically saying, I've always been on the left, but I'm now...
I haven't changed. The world has changed around me. I know the feeling. We all know the feeling if you're of a certain age.
So I wonder whether... Yeah, I wonder whether that's what this is about. I wonder whether this is about Musk in his own mind thinking that he's rebalancing where social media sits in that sort of broader picture of society.
Yeah. In any case, Ashley, what has happened here, and when we look at the non-rise of Threads and Mastodon, there has been a reclaiming, in a general sense, of centrists and maybe right-wingers have reclaimed social media platforms, which were for a time the primary means by which the intolerant left practiced cancel culture. That was the coalface or the battlefield of the culture wars. Twitter in particular, Facebook to a certain extent, was where the left cancelled companies, boycotted companies, went back and trolled through people they didn't like and destroyed people's reputations.
Oh, absolutely. And you can add to that list, the Disneys and the Nikes and all of these other companies that have gone down that track as well. But I think, I agree with what you're saying.
And the Vodafones,
And the Vodafones.
And the Kiwi banks.
All that. I think and the ASBs. I think this is part of a broader trend which is going on worldwide, which is that the average voter on the centre right has had a guts full of the wokery and the sort of the PC-ness of the last 10 or so years, and you're starting to see that show up in election results around the world, within the Western world. So I think this is all part of a broader perspective where I think most of us have just basically had enough of this stuff, and we've said that this is the point where we're going to go no further. So I think that while what you're saying is correct, it's a reflection, and you're going to see this in October in New Zealand. I think we're going to have a much larger swing back toward the right than most of us anticipate, all because most of us have sort of looked at the stuff over the last 10 years and thought, well, nobody agrees with me, so I've got to be quiet. We're now starting to realise that a lot of us hold these views, and I think there's going to be, as I say, a reversion back to something which is a bit more normal relative to what we expect of our country.
And that's kind of, for example, what, in terms of media coverage, what we at the platform are trying to achieve in a new way.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Ashley, I've got this interesting text through. It says, Musk has bought the users. Musk will turn it into WeChat. He has already said that. WeChat, the most amazing app, pay buses, trains, shares, send money and banking. So maybe he didn't look at that $44 billion purchase of Twitter as buying Twitter, but buying access to everyone in the world that was using Twitter.
Well, that's an interesting argument. And so if you look at what Zuckerberg's done with Facebook, and he's turned it into Meta, and the concept behind Meta is this whole idea of the metaverse, which is not just Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and these other things that they own. But
it's all slightly Dr. Evil, the metaverse, isn't it?
Yeah, although you could argue that is that what Musk is doing? Is this the Xverse? Is it this idea of building up this platform, using that in the broader sense of that term, of various different ways that you can interact with people, including monetary systems, which is where the whole, what you were just describing comes in. I look at that stuff and I said, my eyes glaze over after a while in terms of trying to understand it, but I do get the bigger picture. The bigger picture is to try and to interact with people at every touch point of their lives, whether they be digital or analog, to try and actually involve them in what you're doing. And if that was the purpose behind this, and if that was why he bought Twitter, and it was about buying that database of names and the ability to interact, then maybe it will turn out to be a really clever choice. But
at the moment, we don't know. The jury is out. And I wonder if we ever will know, Ashley. Will the goalposts in this space keep moving so quickly no one really can keep up?
Well, if you Musk will tell you how you'll know this in a year or 18 months. You'll look at the share value of X or Twitter or whatever he's currently calling it. If it's gone up, he was right, and if it's gone down, he was wrong. It's that simple.
Yeah. All right, but you're not on it at the moment. I must admit, I have just noted since someone changed the nice little bluebird on my phone, I've been using it less. And in any case, the new algorithm wasn't giving me the dopamine that it used to.
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, by the way, your producer asked me when he first contacted me about, because I own the domain x.org.nz, and asked whether, in fact, it was originally from a call from the Herald about what I was going to do with it. Yeah. That's a complete coincidence. I actually bought that 10 years ago. I traded more time in domains, and that was just one that sort of looked cool at the time. But, whether if I was approached by
you might sell it?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, I've got no real point for it, and I love Musk. I love what he's trying to do to sort of balance and equalise the whole sort of free speech thing. So, if they wanted it, I've got no real use for it. They'd be more than welcome to it.
Yeah. Hey, Ashley, that was a really interesting chat. We must have you on more often and maybe get you in for a free speech Friday as well. Very nice to have you.
No problem at all, mate.
Cheers.
Good to talk.
Ashley Church. He's a property commentator, businessman, entrepreneur, you might call him. Good stuff. And I was just after a perspective on this X thing. If you are a Twitter user or now an X user, what do you think of it all? What do you make of it all? I'm still scratching my head a little bit.